Hey, Pat, I heard you had a Wile Coyote moment.
As a matter of fact, I did, Mark. I'll explain it after we get started. But oh man, you remember Wile E. Coyote, how he always either went to the bottom of a cliff and went poof, or had an anvil hit him on the head, or went through something and left this image on the screen. The third one was the one I did the other day, and I'll tell you about it. Anyway, let's get started. We've got a special guest today, and we're going to introduce and everything else. Once we get going, we'll just play the intro music and get going.
If it's pickleball in Canada, you found the podcast with Canadian pickleball players, pros, and addicts. Welcome to Pickleball Today, the podcast version of Pickleball Today.
Okay, everyone, thanks for joining us today. Patrick Batty and my partner, Mark Bittorf, here with me today, as always. And we are doing another of our fun episodes of Pickleball Today. I'm looking forward to this one, Mark, for a couple reasons. Number one, you're doing all the work. So this is really cool. I mean, I think that's been part of my cunning master plan. Just wanted to get you up to that, and I think you're ready to roll. So anyway,
Pat,
you're doing all the work today.
You say that now, but wait until the end and see how much talking you actually do.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. Anyway, I mentioned Wile E. Coyote moment. I'm an old guy. I do stupid stuff and embarrassing stuff, and my kids always remind me of it and things like that. But the other day, what I would do here, again, my wife was hospitalized. I'm by myself in the evening. A lot of the time, but in the evening, if I'm not playing pickleball, I'm sitting here doing something. I have a little patio or deck off of our den. And what I tend to do is if I'm watching TV in the evening, especially with the weather we've had, go outside to swing the TV around so I can look at it through the screen door. And anyway, the other night was a nice night. I can't remember. It was probably Olympics, what I was watching. And I got distracted with something, and I was taking something outside, and I don't know why. I took something outside, came back in, closed the screen door, picked something else up, and walked right through my screen door. And it just literally left the Wile E. Coyote imprint on the door. I guess it's, I don't know, fiberglass screening or whatever. I went flying. Whatever I was carrying went flying. And I left this stupid... literally in the screen. And as soon as, first of all, after I said, a few words, and, it was hurting and one leg was bleeding and the other leg was aching, I looked at the screen and I just started laughing. I mean, it's just classic. So anyway, that was the Wile E. Coyote moment. Anyway, hey, what are we doing today? We are talking pickleball as always. And we've got a number of things that we'll be covering. I'll just go over it very, very quickly. What we're going to start with today is, I think, one of the more important topics for recreational pickleball players. One that I've heard about a lot at the club, court where you and I play. But I've also heard it at when I was playing at Cambridge Pickleball Club, and that especially by beginners. And the topic is, how to handle these people that are hitting hard all the time. What do you do about it? So, typically that's called bangers. And so Mark is going to be talking about that extensively today. Mark's going to be talking about it a lot today because we think it's a really interesting thing. I had to learn how to deal with it myself. I'm sometimes accused of being one, but most of the time not. People can hit hard, but if you're hard and not accurate, that gets to be an issue. And so anyway, Mark's going to be covering that extensively. We also have some paddle news coming up, some paddle giveaways coming up, and we'll talk about all that. And then I think most importantly, we have a special guest today. And that guest is Mr. Scott Foster, who is, first of all, a great pickleball player. I met Scott I've met him a number of times now over the last year and a half at a lot of Canadian pickleball tournaments, the CNPL, CPA Pro Tour, and even though 2 weekends ago at Major League Pickleball, where he was attending as a spectator with his lovely little girl. I can't remember Scott's daughter's name. We'll get it when we bring him up because she was wonderful, and I think she had a pretty good time. So, Mark, you're going to be doing that interview with Scott because him being a referee, you knowing him and a lot and having played with him and all that, and frankly, you having played in more tournaments than I with referees, I think it's really appropriate that you lead the way. So that's our agenda today. I'm going to turn it over to, just before I turn it over to Mark, I'd like to mention to everyone, we usually forget to ask this, but we will ask it right now. If you could like our video, follow us wherever you are. If you're on a podcast player, on that podcast player. If you're on YouTube, in the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment and leave, a review or whatever you can do. Any of that will help us get seen. It's like we don't profit from any of those things, and they don't cost you anything. But they number one will help us get seen. Number two, if you leave a comment, let us know, what you'd like us to cover. Is there a paddle brand? Is there a lesson? Is there any of those kind of things that we can talk about so we can give relevant comment? So please follow us one way or the other. And there are other benefits as well, because we're going to be talking about paddle giveaways. And over the next 2 weeks or so, we have 3 or 4 paddles we'll be giving away to people that do all of the above things. We'll get into more detail of that later. But right now, I think, Mark, it's time for me to turn things over to you so you can talk about how to handle these nasty bangers. What do you say?
Yeah, great, Pat. So that's one thing, we hear at the courts all the time. It's a very popular phrase that we hear is, how do I handle a banger? I hate playing against bangers, and it is a very popular shot because most players can just whack the ball. Everybody can just whack the ball as hard as they can. And so now players that wanting to improve and to get better and move up in levels are asking, how do I, counteract their attacks? How do I, slow them down? What should I be looking for? So the first thing I always tell all the players is your grip. Your grip has to be solid. Like we're talking 10 out of 10 on the grip scale, just to make sure that you are firm and ready to go when you see them wind up. I'm always, split step, always before I see somebody wind up, because I want to be stopped, firm grip, ready to take on that shot. So you're always, not moving. So you show like a wall. You're like trying to think of it like you're a brick wall, and you're like, I'm just going to send this thing right back and make sure that they know that I'm ready to play.
You get to where you want to be, Mark.
So next thing Yeah, stop beforehand. You see them wind up, and you need to do that split step. You need to stop. You need to firm up your grip, and you need to just think, I'm going to take this shot from right here.
Right. And I will say, you've shown me a number of times the split step is wider than I would normally have done. About how wide is it?
Yes.
Then?
Yeah. We're outside the shoulders is usually what I say. Is you want to be just a little bit wider than the shoulders because we want that wide stance sturdiness.
Okay, great.
Yep. So while we're in that stance, and then next thing you need to think about where we need to target our shot or our block or our reset. And that's where we're going after their feet. So a lot of times it's absorbing their power because the ball's coming really fast. So we want to send that ball back on a downward motion towards their feet. If we can send it down to their feet, then they're unable to usually attack again. But if they do keep trying to attack from down below their knee level, their feet, is that ball projectile is going from low to high, and you could just move out of the way on that next shot and it will go straight out the back. You'd be surprised that how many players or how many shots when you're playing against bangers are actually all going
I know
out.
a few players that initially intimidated me at our club. And then I started realizing he is really hitting long, and I'm just a sucker for going for them. And and I started letting him make more, even though they were coming, I don't know, real fast. I just started being a little bit smarter about it. And if it was kind of, depending on how far forward I is, but above chest height or so, I was definitely letting them go, and most of the time they were out. So
yeah, it's start recognizing that angle. If it's a low to high swing, you know that ball's going out, and you got to leave them. And that's probably the hardest shot to teach somebody is to leave a ball.
Absolutely,
your instinct is to hit every ball, right? So nobody, they're just like, oh, how do I leave it? I'm like, you literally just have to start leaving every shot where you see somebody wind up, and just look behind you and just be like, oh, that was out. That was out. And who knows, maybe 1 out of 20 hits that back line or something. But, the other 17 or 18 or whatever it is, they were all out. And based on those odds, we play the best odds. And once you get comfortable leaving balls, you'd be surprised how many are going out. But you just have to try it. You got to go out in your recreational games with your buddies. And every time you see somebody wind up, just start moving out of the way. And just kind of keep track in your head, like, okay, that's out, that's out. Oh, that one caught, Or this guy, all 10 of his were out, but the opponent, the other guy on the other team, or the partner, was just like, you know what? He probably maybe got half them in because he's hitting with topspin. And you're like, okay, maybe I can't leave his shots. I have to still go for his. But it's just, trial and error. And once you get comfortable with leaving balls going out, you'll definitely advance up skill-wise pretty quick.
That's a great tip. I mean, instinct, you said, is to go for them. Also, sometimes when things are just ultra fast, reactions will just have you go for it before you even think about anything, right? But
True.
When you have time, you let your partner know if there's one going to be out too. And what I always do is I don't call out, because I think Scott will clarify on that. If I called out, that would not be a way to let my partner know. But I usually say ole. so in other words, let it go, ole. But again, if it's real fast, you don't have a time to let them know. It's got to be up to the player to do it. But when you can let somebody know that it's out, do it, because so many points are wasted.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I use the word no.
Yeah,
I just say no, and that to
that's
my
probably
partner,
better than ole.
Don't hit
ole
it,
takes too long. It takes twice as long as no.
Yeah, no, it's pretty quick.
Out would be a bad one, right?
Yeah. We'll have to clarify with Scott if we're allowed to say out or not, but it definitely, I think, would cause confusion.
Okay, we will.
So we'll hit
what a
Scott
luxury
with that
to have somebody who knows
once we bring him
everything
in.
about this stuff. Finally, we got somebody who knows what they're talking about on this podcast. No, hey, Mark, thanks so much for that, man. I think that's an exciting topic, because, gee, I hear it a lot. I experienced a lot. I played for now, year and a half, not quite. And there are some players that even now, when I go into the 3 to 4 level open groups, holy geez, there's some big hitters there. Or even more so when I went into the open duper night. Woo! And but surprisingly, there were not as many dink battles going on, even in that I would have expected. But and I like doing that, and recently I've been better at that too. But anyway, you do play bangers a lot. You do play bangers a lot.
Yeah.
Anything else about it, or is that pretty much what you got?
Yeah. No, I would just reiterate that we always target their feet. So we want to send that ball in a downward motion towards their feet wherever they are in the court. If they're deep, you might have to add a little punch to it. if they're closer to the kitchen line, you might have to soften up their shot and just absorb it with the goal of, hitting their feet is your target zone with those shots.
Softening up the shot was something we practiced the other day too. It was fun. And it didn't take long to get better at it. You just have to try to do it. And most of us rec players hardly ever try. So, okay. So next, again, I will ask people, that's a great tip, Mark, and I appreciate it a lot. If you like what you've heard, give Mark a like, give him a comment, thank him for what he's done and what he's given to us here. And I appreciate it, bud. Anyway, paddles, we've talked about 2 brands recently. I'm going to talk about them a little bit again, but very briefly this time. Bread and Butter Pickleball. And later on, we will talk a little bit about 6-0 Pickleball. So, Mark, you and I played a few paddles the other day. In fact, we played about 4 different ones the other day.
Yes.
But the Bread and Butter paddles, I've still been playing the Fat Boy. And I started playing the Loco. And the Loco is, I'll hold it up here. Again, carbon fiber, 16 mil thermoform paddle. Nice, clean looking paddle. Hits powerful, but not as powerful as the Filth. And the Filth we'll talk about a little later. I think you have the Filth there. This is a little bit of I would guess you would call that a hybrid shaped paddle. And I like it. That's more my traditional shape that I've played. However, what I should play, this is more of what I have played shape, more of what I should play for the level of skill I have is not worried about the extra length, but worry about the extra width, and that being the Fat Boy. And I still love the Fat Boy and the marketing and everything else about it. But this paddle, I am hitting better than anything. And top spin on it, massive sweet spot on it. It just works for me. Now, Mark, something works for you a little bit better, or one that you prefer more, and I think that's the Shogun, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely, going with the Shogun lately. I just feel the spin off this thing is crazy. I really love it. It's good for the 2-hand backhand as well, because you do have a little bit longer grip on it. That's the only downside to the Fat Boy, I would say a little bit, is I don't have this longest handle. So for my game, I'm more the Shogun. But you are correct. For your game, it's more the Fat Boy right now.
Now, you also played recently, and we're not going to go into this in detail. You played with the Filth the other day as well?
Yes. Yeah. So the Filth is the exact same shape, exact same pretty much paddle as the Shogun, just a different face. It doesn't have the titanium weave, but everything else is pretty much the same, other than it's a little bit more poppy, I would say.
Yeah.
A little bit more power off it. So if you prefer a little more power, I would go the Filth. If you prefer a little bit more spin, I would go the Shogun.
So that's it with Bread and Butter. I appreciate it, Mark. They're I'm just incredibly fun paddle brand. I love it. We have an offer code for people that want a discount on them. It's 15% off. Our code is called PB Today, PBT for Pickleball Today, but it's the PBTODAY. PB Today, you get 15% off. You can go to bnbpickleball.com, use that code, or that'll be it, and that'll get you 15% discount. Lovely paddles, great deal, and they're just nice. Next up, though, we have paddle giveaways too. We've talked about some paddles in the past that we're going to give away. We are ready to do that over the next couple of days. I have a couple Selkirk paddles. One is the Halo. I can't remember if it's the Max or XL shape, but a Halo. That's their first carbon fiber paddle. Came out about a year ago. A new one here that has not been used, or maybe been tested once or twice. Also, we have another one. The name is escaping me. Another Selkirk paddle. And then we will be picking amongst our other paddles over the next week or two as well. Any paddle we send out is a quality name brand kind of pro level paddle or above, or $150 plus paddle, some up to $300 value. So paddle giveaways are something we're going to be doing on our podcasts, on our videos, etc. We just like it. We get too many paddles and we can't, there's no sense in like 40 paddles sitting here in a bag in which I may have 3 favorites, right? There's not much. So before they're a year old, let's get them out and give them to people and things like that. So what do you do to get a paddle? You subscribe to our podcast. Okay. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you are. If it's on the podcast player, great. If it's on the YouTube, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Next is you will need an opt-in on our website, pickleballtoday.co. There'll be a pop-up there, opt in there, because we're going to contact the winners by email. And that's the only way we're going to get an email. We don't want you to leave a comment with your email address in an open forum. Okay, so just for your sake, go to our channel. We'll get the email. That goes into our MailChimp account, highly secure. You'll get notification of things as they come out, but we will privately email the winners and announce them and get your logistics, etc., privately via email so that we know where to ship it and so forth. The other thing to do is leave review and comment wherever you are. If it's on an article on our website, you can do it there. You can leave them again on the YouTube video and all that. So 3 paddles over the next 10 days or so. And then we will be doing one every about 2 weeks or so after that. Let's see. I think maybe we'll do the other paddle news later, Mark, or should we go to Scott right now?
Yeah, you want to do it after?
We got one other paddle news and giveaway coming up.
Here.
It's an important one though, so make sure you stick with us. But let's turn things over to you and Scott first. I'll let you handle intros, and then I'll just kick in a wee bit after you're done. Okay.
All right. Hey Scott, how are you doing today?
Good, yourselves, gentlemen?
Oh, good to have you on, buddy. Me and Scott have we met back in Barrie Pickleball, a few years ago now, just playing on the courts, and Scott has pursued his reffing in pickleball, so he's going to have some good questions and insights regarding the referee side of pickleball, especially here in Canada. He's doing a lot of reffing on the pro tours. We have a couple different tours out there, so we're going to ask him some questions, get some details. If you're interested in becoming a ref,
well, that's good. Good. I'm glad you're going to do that. Yeah.
But how about how about Scott? You give us a quick little background just on yourself, what you grew up doing, what you do now, that sort of thing.
Of course. So I've lived in Barrie basically my entire life. 38 years old, married to a beautiful lady and wonderful woman, Kate Foster. Daughter Stella.
Oh man, yeah.
Met at
it was
MLP
so fun
recently.
meeting her, by the way, Scott. She looked like she was having a ball.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she had we both had a really great time. The MLP event was awesome. Grand Rapids is a beautiful city. I didn't expect that when we went there. So if anybody can visit there, it sounds like it was a hit. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's there again. I work for the city of Barrie as well. I've worked multiple different positions, about 18 years with them. And then specifically pickleball, I was introduced by Kate's mother-in-law, Mary Flynn. So shout out to Mary. She was pushed to start maybe 5 or 6 years ago by Kate and her sister Amy. And then from there, I kind of got introduced to it and took off from there.
I think anybody in the Barrie area has played pickleball with Mary Flynn.
Yeah.
She is one of the funnest people to play pickleball with. 100%. Yeah. She's a lot of energy. She's a go-getter, and you always have a good laugh when you're playing with Mary.
Hey,
so
Mary, I assume you're going to watch this. Nice to meet you, and I like that. I'm looking forward to meeting you one of these days.
Yeah, Mary's a big fan of the 6-0 Ruby too. So shout out to that. She loves that paddle.
I played with that a lot, and mine's getting a little worn worn down at this point, but it's a nice paddle. Anyway, I'll leave it back to you. I won't interrupt now, Mark. Sorry about that.
It's the one thing you can't resist.
Your topics are so good.
Uh-huh. Okay, so Scott, let's get into some questions here. We talked about bangers today. Are you a banger? What percentage of players you see that playing in tournaments are bangers? Well, how would you break that down?
First question, am I a banger? Definitely not. I kind of wish I was a little bit. First started pickleball, obviously banged it around like everybody else does. Then I worked on trying to slow the game down, resets, things like that. And now as you start to play in higher levels and against better players, you do need to be aggressive and kind of speed up when you have opportunities, and like dinking with purpose, as you said, getting it at the feet, even if it's resets or dinks, definitely important. Yep. So that's what I'm working on. But when it comes to tournaments and bangers, definitely when I first started refereeing, there was a lot of banging. Then it's kind of dependent on the level now. It's kind of like your lower levels, definitely banging the ball around, trying to work on those third shot drops, and then it turns into lob city. But then even those higher levels, players are going to try to push players back, get access to their feet. And by way of doing that is from time to time banging it or driving it hard. So I'd definitely say it's nice. It's kind of a mix. Yep.
Now, we know you're from the Barrie area, and that's kind of where you started refereeing. But what was the first introduction to refereeing for you?
It was the Barrie Pickleball Club. So hopefully you don't mind the shout out to Kim and Gil. They had offered a referee clinic, a free clinic just around the corner from my house, actually. Ryan Haynes from the True North Pickleball Tour set it up to get more referees for the Nationals. I think this is 2022. So myself and a friend, we attended, and I thought I'm like, maybe it'd help my game, learn the rules, and it was free. So I attended that, and kind of from there, I just took it from there, studied the rule book, studied the referee handbook and case books, and just practiced at the courts during recreational games, and just kind of took it from there. And kind of a background in refereeing. My grandfather and dad were into hockey, and they were referees for hockey and ball hockey. And then one of my dad's best friends and his kids did high-level junior and international refereeing. So we would tour around with them, and I would goal judge. So I was kind of in the mix with those discussions, and I thought it was really exciting to be part of those and try to not so much just the rules of a sport, pickleball or hockey. There's a lot of unwritten rules and managing the game, managing the players, managing the atmosphere. You get in the playoffs or say the CNPL, it can get heated, tensions can get high, and as a referee, you have to manage all of that. So definitely it kind of suits me, suits my mind type, kind of a lot of black and white, but also being able to understand players and emotions and how the matches started and kind of progressed to understand. So really that's kind of took it from there, studied, practiced, attended a few local tournaments, and then found out I was able to make a little bit of money on the side, nothing too crazy. And so that's kind of why I continue it. Now I really enjoy it. So.
Oh man, that's great to hear. I will give a shout out to the Barrie Pickleball Club too. That place with Kim and Gil, they have grown that club from nothing to one of the biggest clubs in all of Canada. And sweet brand new facility, I think was just built last year with 12 courts at the one Painswick Park. A couple other different areas around Barrie as well have courts. So huge pickleball community up in Barrie. That's where I started playing a lot too. So great, welcoming. Definitely check it out.
Sorry about that, guys. There we go.
That's okay, Pat.
But by the way, Mark, now that I have interrupted, because surprisingly, about 2/3 of the people that watch our stuff are from the U.S. even though we a lot talk about Canada. I'll say Barrie's about an hour and a half north of Toronto, Ontario. We're talking Barrie, Ontario. I know there are other Barries. Lovely city, surrounded by lakes on a few different kind of sides. Just a general nice, medium-sized town. Anyway, just wanted to let that known because, we kind of take it for granted. But when we look at our stats, 2/3 of people who listen are from the U.S. So interesting. Thank you.
Awesome, Pat. Thanks for jumping in there. Scott, so what would be the most common fault you call players on during tournament games? What are you seeing the most of?
Typically, it's non-volley zone faults. That can be anything, obviously. Volleying before and after touching the non-volley zone. But probably the most often one that I call is, I've been told can be the most tricky to find or call, is the push-off. So that's where players, in the case where there's a lob during a dink battle, somebody throws up a lob, you extend your lead leg, usually your left leg if you're a right-hander. You push on that non-volley zone line, jump up, and you don't get that left foot reestablished on the court before you hit the ball. That's a fault. So that's typically the one that I see and call most often.
Could I ask a question on that one?
Well behaved for the most part.
Why is that a rule? I've heard of it, I've seen it, but I don't really know why it's a rule.
I guess it's kind of, you have to think about that 7 feet from the net to the outside of the non-volley zone towards the baseline. It's kind of an area that I've found exciting about pickleball. It's an area that kind of allows the game to be accessible from all different age, skill levels. So to be able to put your foot in there and gain that space to volley the ball is kind of what opens the door to a player to gain an advantage. That's kind of the way I would sum it up.
Thanks, Scott.
So, but no problem. But the most important thing that I find a lot of players do, and even myself still, somebody hits a cut shot that drops, and everybody wants to slow down and stop before the non-volley zone, even though the ball's bounced. Everybody's afraid of it at the start, but it's always funny, and I even catch myself. Just last night, I'm running up, somebody Christian cut it really short, and I'm running up and I'm trying to slow down to stop, and I'm like, I don't have to slow down. So it's definitely kind of that's the one where I still people ask me that question a lot. Be like, when can you go into the non-volley zone? When can't you? Questions like that.
Nice. So next we're gonna ask, can you clarify what a player can ask you on the court, like during a game? Like, are they allowed to challenge certain calls, ask for the score? What questions or what interaction can a player have?
Can they even ask if the ball was out?
Yep. So let's start with appeals on line calling specifically. So, say Team A hits the ball to Team B, and Team B calls it out. A quick call, nice and loud. Team A can then appeal to the referee to ask the referee, in this case myself, if I saw the ball in or out. As a referee, you have a few options. Is if you did see the ball was out, you would state the call in the court stance. By saying that, you don't give any particular details of what you saw or didn't see. It kind of keeps you neutral. And you just say the call in the court stance, the ball was out. If the ball was in, and as a referee, me personally, overturning calls is not something I enjoy. So when I do have to overturn a call, I am making sure I'm 100% confident that ball was in. Because as a referee, that is not my responsibility. My focus is the non-volley zone during the rally. So if I do have to call the ball in, I would say the ball was in, and then whatever happened for that particular rally. So side out, point, or point or side out, things like that. But questions in regards to the players can ask me before the serve is done. So contact with the ball, they can ask to confirm the score. They can ask, are we good? It's kind of the typical one to ask for now is, so am I good? Mainly, are we in the correct positions? And who is the correct server or receiver? And that's both on the serving side and the receiving side. Those are typically the questions that I would be asked, and I'm able to answer those. After the serve is contacted is kind of when it gets a little fuzzy. After the serve is contacted, the receiving team can stop play without contacting the ball to return it, and ask if the score is correct. If it is indeed incorrect, so myself, I called it incorrect, then we would replay the point. If I called the score correctly, and they had stopped play, it would most likely be a fault because they stopped playing unnecessarily.
Okay,
That
gotcha.
doesn't happen very often. Last year, rules changed where the referee is responsible for confirming the correct server and receivers and positions. Previously, it was a fault. It was the one that I disliked the most. The rule, it's kind of like you have to be sneaky and be like, I got you. So they removed that and gave that the responsibility of the ref, which is great because the entire game or entire match, that's one of my sole jobs, is to keep track of the score and correct positions
Yeah.
and receivers. So why not ask and make us responsible? So those are some of the questions.
Nice. No, that's some really good info, because when people go to tournaments, I feel like they don't know what they can ask or what they can challenge and stuff like that during a tournament. And most of the time, people just stay quiet. So they
Yeah.
get nervous
Yeah.
and don't realize, hey, you could challenge that call. And if you're not, like, they'll talk amongst themselves with their partner, be like, oh, I think that was in. And they're just like, well, they called it out. And then they don't even ask the ref. I've seen them where they don't ask the ref, and the ref's like, oh, if you ask me, I can overturn this. But, as a ref, you're very professional, Scott, and you just stand there and you just, like, if they don't ask, I can't overturn it, right? So
exactly.
I've seen that stuff.
I can't.
That must be tough.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
It's difficult from
Yeah.
It can be like there's definitely times where I say I saw the ball in and they're hemming and hawing, did you see it? Did you question it? And they never ask. Sometimes like they'll look at me, and you kind of learn this as you referee more and more matches. When a player looks at you, but they don't really say anything, that's kind of appealing to me. They're appealing to me for my decision. So in that case, then I can talk about it. But there's lots of times where I'm just like, just ask me, even if it's like I can confirm the ball was out, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid.
It might
to
be
ask
the right call still. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yep.
So we're on questions here and talking about kind of some of the rules and challenges and stuff. And sorry. And one thing I wanted to mention was timeouts. I think that's something where there's a couple different timeout options you can have during a game, and how do those work usually? And what players can use a timeout for?
Yep. So typically for a single game match, so 1 to 11 or 1 to 15, each team gets 2 timeouts. And for a match 2 out of 3, each team is entitled to 2 timeouts per game. So potentially a total of 6. The other timeouts you can get into is a referee timeout. That can be anything I deem to be a timeout. That could be, the ball flew across the entire stadium and you have to get the ball. I'll call timeout. Or any other concerns or things I need, or say a drink of water. You don't need a timeout anymore for equipment, or to towel off or take a water break. Those are kind of allowed a reasonable period of time. It's kind of what the rule book says. And then there's the medical timeout. So that's any player. Each gets 1 medical timeout per match. That starts when a medical staff member gets to the court, and it's kind of deemed to be an actual medical timeout and it's reasonable. They then have 15 minutes from the start of that timer. Once the 15 minutes is up, they are expected to be ready to play. I would call the 15 seconds, and that player or team would have to take their position. Otherwise, those are the timeouts reason. Yep.
Okay, no, thanks for clarifying that. And definitely, people need to use timeouts more in their games, especially against when they get a big run against them or just breaking up the momentum. I bet you see it all the time where you're just like, oh man, these guys should just take a timeout. But a lot of players do not use that timeout in their favor at all, and they'll play the whole game without taking one timeout and lose it.
No, it's like I watch a fair bit of pickleball on TV, and I find that if a team can get the Johns brothers to take a timeout, they've already won. So don't be like the Johns brothers. Use those timeouts. Even if it's just to sit and talk about how we're going to celebrate our win. Whatever you want to do. Might as well use them, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. So that was great. I'm glad you clarified the timeouts for us. What is a rule that players probably don't know is a rule, or a very low-key type rule that isn't used that often that you could shine some light on?
That's a great one. First thing I would probably say, and not a lot of people will want to do this, but on the Pickleball Canada website or the USAPA website, there are online tests you can take. There's 4 of them. One is a player test, line judge, referee, and I think it's like a general pickleball test. I recommend everybody take the player test. They're multiple choice. They give you a score. You can do it however many times you want. And that kind of gives you the general understanding and responsibilities of a player. And it will teach you some of those calls that you don't often see, or that don't often see faults, or, understanding of like, one thing is if the receiving team calls a timeout after the return is contacted, it is a fault, because it'd be considered somewhat of a distraction in sorts.
Oh,
that one.
Okay.
I'm actually studying for my ATS, which opens up the door for full certification. And that one I actually picked up on. Still learning all the time. So I would suggest take those players tests. But probably the one that people don't realize is the plane of net rule. So basically, if a player crosses the plane of net without contacting the ball prior to crossing that imaginary extension of the net between the two sides, that is a fault.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of players don't know that one. Even if it's a foot, or you're kind of running and your paddle swings beyond that plane, it is a fault. That's probably the one that I call, and players look at me funny. They don't understand that one.
So that would be like on the Ernie type shots?
Yeah,
I guess once you get out to the side,
or things like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah. So me and Scott were talking earlier, and I heard that you're actually going out to the Canadian Nationals out in Halifax, Nova Scotia next month to referee that event. Can you share some light on what's that going to look like for you as a referee traveling to that? How does that work with travel costs and games and those sort of things as a ref?
Yep, definitely. So Pickleball Canada kind of shifted a little bit from their typical per diem compensation plan, I guess, more or less. So for this one, there was, I believe, 38 referees were selected through a process of like hierarchy, certified refs, level 2s within the certification program, and the level 2s were offered the ability to go, and only if you're going to referee only. I guess there was actually a high demand for referees wanting to attend. So that's really good news. So in this case, I won't give you the particular numbers. I don't know if they want that out there or not, but they cover mileage, accommodations, and a vehicle rental if necessary for flying from the West Coast. And then you're paid for each match. So for me, this is on the Pickleball Canada website. I'm currently a level 2. That'd be $10 per match. For a certified ref,
nice.
it'd be $15 per match. So I've been told, and we actually have a virtual meeting on Saturday just to talk about everything. I've been told initially I'll be there from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Each day. So it's Tuesday through Saturday. So there'll be long days, that's for sure. But that's why I'm going out there. So,
Mark, I'll just...
I'm taking the opportunity. My daughter...
Sorry, after you guys. We get a little lag here. One sec. You continue on, Scott. Sorry.
All good. My wife and daughter and I, we're all driving out. And then after the tournament, we're going to take another week or so to around Cape Breton, hit up some other spots, Quebec City, Montreal on the way back. So turn into a big family trip. So that's the kind of things that I've become a referee that I didn't realize were actually possible. Turn it into a full family trip. So it's great.
Yeah, no, that's awesome that you're making a family trip out of it, and through refereeing you can add that sort of adventure. It's one of those things, once you dive in, you just never know where it's going to take you. So based on that, if somebody else was looking to get into refereeing, how would you recommend them start here in Canada, at least?
Of course. So visit Pickleball Canada or USAPA. Find the official rule handbook. The referee's handbook, the official rule book, and the case book. Read through those. Study those. Those will basically teach you all the rules. Teach you how to use the score sheet and the clipboard. And then attend a training session because at those training sessions, there's both an in-class and a kind of on-court. They'll basically show you the basics. You'll be in a game and each person will take a turn and give you the basics. But then from there, it's practice, just practice. Like, it sounds super lame, but even last night, I was at Painswick and I'm preparing for my ATS. I would play a match and then I'd referee one or two just to keep myself fresh and ready to go. So that's what I would recommend. Once you feel like you're ready to go or feeling confident, you would reach out to the provincial head referee. They'd get you in touch with a trainee or a trainer of sorts. And then you could you would get a mentor of sorts. And then say if you wanted to, you could go to a local tournament as a trainee in referee matches. And then from there, you get accredited level 1 and 2. And if you really want to pursue it, become certified.
How many certified refs would there be
awesome
in Canada? Any idea?
I know there's more the West Coast. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know in Ontario, I know Andrea Blackwell, she's my mentor now. She just became fully certified, and I think Bud Hebner, I've never met him personally, but at BCO, he got fully certified. So I think there's maybe only 5 or 6.
Wow.
In
okay,
Ontario.
So it's pretty exclusive.
So there's not many certified referees.
And you're about to go through that testing.
So I'm doing a mock ATS this weekend coming up in Kingston. That's basically they throw everything like the kitchen sink at you. Even players, you have to have line judges, second referee. Everybody has a script. So like Mark, you would you as one of the players, you would commit a non-volley zone fault, or throw your paddle.
He does it all the time. Yeah.
And I have to call them accordingly, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
So it's basically to prepare you for the actual ATS, which I'm hoping to do before I go to nationals, and then at nationals I can get my evaluation, which is basically a full day process. For watching all your matches, how you process the score sheet, everything like that. So definitely preparing, studying to make sure I don't have to do it again if I don't have to. So so excited.
Good for you.
Nice. Awesome. This has been great insight into the refereeing world there, Scott. Last question for you. We're big hockey fans. We love the Stanley Cup, Game 7. That would be the ultimate game to ref if you're a hockey ref. What's the ultimate game in pickleball for you to ref, hopefully one day?
Right now, Major League Pickleball, for sure. So that was definitely the excitement of going to MLP. I was able to talk to Courtney Johnson. There's times I've spoken to her in regards to, things we're doing at CMPL. So that would probably be top of my list right now. And then obviously with the Olympics on right now, and hopes, pickleball become an Olympic sport, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know how long it is, 4, 8, 12 years from now. That would definitely be one of my big goals. That'd be super awesome. That'd be cool.
That would be amazing. One day you're at the Olympics refereeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? When you think about it, when it's 12, it's probably 12 years out.
24 years out.
And, the leading referees are in the United States and Canada right now. So they would have a really good opportunity as you've got an advantage over time over countries where we need more countries, but, obviously they're not there yet. So you're going to have an advantage over time and skill level and experience as well. So there's a great chance.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. That's that's great, Scott.
Scott, I'll just add,
time is in your favor for the Olympics.
We'll cheer you on. I've never cheered for the referees at an event. And although I did at MLP, by the way, did meet the referees a lot when I was in the, on the one day I was feeling heat exhaustion from two solid days in the sun. And so I sat in the press player referee lounge for an awful lot of the day. And so I was there when they were prepping for the day and everything else, literally at the same table, in fact. And so got them all. I also like the MLP referee uniforms with those bright orange. They got pretty cool ones. So, Hey, Scott, I want to thank you for joining us today. That was really good. I was really interesting. And I did love meeting you guys when I was there. Nice to see some people I recognized beyond, the players that were playing in that. And I've seen you at every pro tournament I think I've been at. I'm not sure. Did you go to Edmonton last year?
No, there's for the CMPL, there's a West crew. Initially, they had offered a few of us from the East to go.
That would be the only one. That's why I asked. That would have been the only pro tournament I've been to where I haven't seen you, pretty much. Oh, and PPA when I went there last year. But thank you. Thanks, Mark, for the interview. And thank you, Scott, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. It gives a lot of insight.
Yep. No, absolutely. Thanks for having me, gentlemen. I watch all your podcasts. Definitely when they first popped up and I saw Mark's face, I'm like, what is this? And so so I'm always excited about it. And Stella and I listened to them on the drive back, and she really likes it.
And you saw his face and you still watch.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Mark's got such a nice smile. I can understand it. Hey, thanks again. And thank you, Mark.
Yep.
And we'll see you again real soon, I think, Scott. So all the best. Okay, so we've only got one other topic, and that is a little bit more paddle news. For those that have stuck with us, this is going to be beneficial for you guys. The paddle news, and again, a giveaway, is we're going to be talking about the 6-0 quartz paddle. Mark happens to be sitting there with the quartz. I don't know if we see quartz up there. Yeah, great. And quartz paddle is similar size, by the way, to the Fat Boy. Not a long handle, a wide body paddle. Very, very playable paddle. Not a good deal of pop, but not a ton of power to it. And it's a fairly lightweight paddle. So, Mark, you and I played it the other day. What was your quick assessment of it?
I would say it's definitely more of a control paddle. It's got a big sweet spot. So, I would recommend it to somebody that's, probably starting out in that 3 to 6 month, maybe a year range, type person, because it is more budget friendly. This paddle comes in, around the $100 mark, sort of thing, but it still has that carbon, finish on it. So you can get some good bite on spin and everything like that. So definitely a good paddle. I let one of the ladies yesterday in my lesson try it out, and her daughter has been playing for about 3 months, and she thought, oh, this would be a great paddle to buy her daughter to start using. She also uses a 6-0 paddle, but she has the double black diamond, which is about twice the price. So, you know, if you know somebody that's recently got into it, they have a birthday or, you know, something like that coming up, I would say somebody under the year mark, that's probably a good control paddle for them. I
think that's a very valid. I mean, not everybody wants to spend $200 or, you know, in the EULA ones are up to close to $4 in Canadian dollars, the new ones, on a paddle, and paddles do wear out. So if you're playing every day, or what, you know, a paddle might be 6-7 months at best, right? So I don't play every day with any one paddle because I swap them around a little bit. But anyway, $300 versus 100. This is a nice paddle for the money. We played it the other day. We did some videos. Unfortunately, the videos had some problems because we had a bunch of kids in the background that were having way more fun and making a lot more noise. So we had audio and everything. You couldn't even hear us. So I have to see if I can salvage the video with a voiceover or something. But boy, we hit the ball well. We did your 5-minute drill and fast hands, dinks, drops, serves. It was just, we did it all. And I liked the paddle a lot. But I personally would add weight to it because it is much lighter than anything or at least a few ounces lighter than anything I've used it. How do people get it? And then we'll talk about the paddle giveaway as well. Go to pickleballtoday.co/6 letter SIX-0. That's simply a redirect that'll take you to the pickleball to the 6-0 site, but it'll actually plug in the discount code for you. And it also allows us to track how many people go through that. So it's a tracking link. But so it's pickleballtoday.co/SIX-0. The code pickleball today should be there. If not, put it in before you check out. The deal with this paddle is, and this is what Mark was alluding to, is it's $89 US. I think off the top of my head, that probably works out to about $129 or $135 Canadian off the top of my head. However, the discount knocks it down by $10 US. So it'll be 80 US. So whatever that converts to, and I'm not sure off the top of my head what it works to. But anyway, you're going to get that discount. You also get free shipping if your order is $100 US. So if you're going to order one, throw in, add something like a paddle cover or a tape or whatever. They've got lots of fairly inexpensive accessories you can grab, and that'll take it to the $100 level. Then you won't have to pay for shipping. It is coming from the States, but as a $100 order, there'll be a little duty on it, but there won't be much duty on it. It might be $10, $15 tops. So you're going to get a good paddle, and at a really good price. The giveaways, it's the same as before. Like, subscribe, follow, comment, anything you can do, but definitely go to our website and also go into the email opt-in, so we at least have a way to contact you privately so we can get addresses, etc. if you win. Again, in the next coming days, we're going to be giving away 3 paddles. And after that, it's going to be probably one every 2 weeks or so. We just got way too many. And it may even get more frequent. So the more opportunities you comment, like, follow, subscribe, do anything, the better chance you have. And that's it. Don't know who's going to win. We'll see. We're going to be very democratic about the process. You don't have to leave us a nice comment. Just leave a comment, but we would appreciate a nice comment. Anyway, Mark, thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for watching today. We went a little longer than normal, but that's the way it is when we have a really entertaining and interesting guest. And Mark, thank you. I enjoy it a lot. Oh, I should mention we have a lot of upcoming guests. We just got to finalize dates with them. We have the Walker sisters, Angie and Alex, coming from the PPA tour. They are Canadians that played here before. We have Scott Fote. We're going to have some of the owners of some of the paddle companies as well, or Crown Pickleball, who's been a sponsor for quite a while as well. crownpickleball.ca for anybody who wants to order from them. Anyway, thank you, Mark. Thanks for the day today. I appreciate your time. We'll get this out as soon as we can later today. Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Pickleball Today, the podcast version of Pickleball Today, Canada's national pickleball news source. Pickleball, obviously, is our passion. And no matter what it is, if it's happening in pickleball in Canada, we're your premier source to bring it all to you. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. Find our website at pickleballtoday.co. On Facebook at PCKL Ball Today. On Instagram at pickleball_today. On YouTube at Pickleball Today Canada. And on Twitter at Pickleball Today. See you next time.